I'm gonna send it to my dad because he wants
Here
to
we
know.
go. Yeah, send it over. So hi everybody. We're live. Joe here with Mary Carreon. How you doing today?
I'm great, Joe. How are you?
Lovely. I actually never asked you how to pronounce your last name. Did I
You,
say it
you,
right?
yes, you did. You said it perfectly.
Lovely. Um, great. So it's been a bit. We're streaming on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitch, X, and Kick, I guess. Yeah.
Kick.
Meta
Wow.
doesn't let me play anymore.
Oh,
Um,
you're in forever timeout. I got it. I got it. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, I think they found a post the other day from 2017 they didn't like. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm like, neat.
Yeah, that happened to me recently, actually. I had a post taken down from 2018 about mushroom gummies, and yeah, it was taken down, and I have strikes on my account now. So
Do you get the thing where they ask you if you're okay?
yes, with my searches though. Like if I search something or someone's account that has like mushroom or psychedelic or LSD or something in it, they'll be like, "Are
Hmm.
you okay?" And then it recommends getting help. So,
I was like,
yeah.
to be fair, I don't know if I'm okay, but
Yeah, you're like,
I don't
"Probably
really want
not."
your help, Meta.
Yeah. You're like, "I actually do need help, but not from you,
Yeah,
thanks."
yeah, yeah. So
Not from the
I'm.
techno fascists.
Oh, good lord. Yeah, we'll go there. I'm sure today.
I know, I just like really dove right there. Sorry.
Yeah. All right. So let's before we go, let's give people like a bit of high kicks on who is Mary, where you working these days, and what are you doing?
Yeah, thank you. My name is Mary
Mhm.
Carreon, and I am forever and first and foremost a journalist. I have been covering, I say, the plant legalization spaces for the past decade. It's been 9.5 years. On January 3rd, it will be 10 years. And I got my start covering cannabis at OC Weekly. And from there, went to High Times. And from there, went to Mary Jane, worked for Snoop Dogg. And then I am now at Double Blind, and I have become recently, as of this year, the editor in chief of Double Blind, and that's where I have been currently sinking my teeth into everything. So currently, at this moment, I'm an editor, and I am basically also a curator. So and somebody who is I guess, an observer of this space more than anything these days. I'm not really
Mhm.
reporting in the same way that I was. But still, I am helping many journalists tell stories, and I feel kind of like a story midwife in many ways, just like helping people produce stories and get the quotes, get the angles that need to be discussed, get the sentences structures right, and am helping sometimes in a visionary kind of mindset. So, yeah, that's what I'm doing these days.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, there
I
you
love
are.
that. And it's important to have um editors who kind of really get it from a lot of different angles. I love that we have a lot of alignment on this kind of and the drug war thing and kind of let's hopefully start developing systems that are for people.
Yeah,
Um if we
absolutely.
want to just say that as
Yeah,
basic.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, almost 10 years in January. That's great. We
It's so crazy
Psychedelics
that
Day
it's
was
been that
just
long.
I think we just turned 9.5, so we're maybe just a few months shorter than your
I
kind
love
of
it.
plant medicine reporting career. That's great.
I love it.
Um, yeah. So I think I think one of the first times we chatted, I think you were doing a piece about 2CB. Do you do you have any recollection of doing a piece on 2CB?
I do. Yes. Yes. Wait, I also remember hitting you up during an Instagram live, and I was like, "Are
Mm.
you guys taking any writers?" And you guys were like, "Writers? I mean, maybe, depending on the writer." And I was like,
Yeah, it's
"Pick
like I don't know how that works.
like me." Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun to work with people like yourself and like get pieces out there. And eventually, we had an awesome editor for a bit, and that was really cool to be able to like support young startup writers who have a lot of opinions and a lot of things to point out. There's so much happening. There was so much fraud in like wave one of kind of the psychedelic investment hype. There's still some, but it's lesser. And it's really a fascinating space still, like changing lives, changing not just lives, right? Like our perspective towards nearly everything, right?
Yeah, yes, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting because the space has matured. It's evolved. It's different than it was even I mean, definitely 9 years ago, but even 5 years ago, even 4 years ago, even last year. Things are different. The landscape is different than it was a year ago. And I it's interesting to see the politics of things. It's interesting to see who has money these days, given like how hard it is just to kind of survive in this space. And it's interesting just to bear witness to all of this going down because it really is a once in a lifetime thing. Nothing is going to look the same as it does now, as it than it will like in a year from now or anything. So it's really, yeah, it's interesting to take account of all of this.
That's so real. Maybe a little too real. Like, but it's serious because, like, with everything that's going on from, governance, governments, AI,
Yes.
drug policy shifts, drug tech shifts. There's so much
Yes.
interesting movement. Um,
Yes.
you you kind of called it out, and I think it's really actually worth discussing here since we're both here on the air together. Like this idea that the psychedelic market, not idea, the lived experience of the psychedelic market having shifted substantially, and I think there's a lot of causes. But I've never had the opportunity to really chat with you about this kind of like interesting downturn in money flowing into the
Mm.
space. Like,
Mhm.
have you thought about it? Like, what might the causes be? I'm sure you have.
Yeah. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I've thought about it. I mean, it's hard. Well, I don't know. I'm really not trying to point fingers, and that's not what I'm trying to do here. But I mean, I think a lot of people were really hopeful that the FDA decision not last June, the previous June, a year ago, 2024 June, was going to open the floodgates in terms of funding, um, in terms of mostly funding, but also just greater opportunities for the space and greater legitimacy granted to the psychedelic medicine space.
Mm,
And for those who might not know what I'm talking about, I'm talking about the FDA decision to reject MDMA assisted therapy, and that whole thing that happened. I'm sure if you didn't even have to really understand what was going on in order to get wind of that wild situation. So maybe, yeah, you probably know what I'm talking about. But I do think that that had a great impact on this space. Do I think it was detrimental to this space? I don't think so. We are in a growth spurt, like we are growing, and growing pains happen when you are evolving and changing and learning and figuring out the way forward. So I think it was kind of a natural process for all of this. And if things had gone forward, like while, yeah, there probably would be more money, there would be greater opportunity in the space for people wanting to get in and get jobs and make a living and have a life for themselves in this world. I don't know if I don't know if it would necessarily be for the betterment of the space in general for the long term. I think that we do have to go through challenges in order for the best case scenarios to play out in the future, even though that's difficult to say now because so many of us are struggling. So, but I have hope, and that statement is coming from a place of hope for the future of this space and this culture.
yeah, it's I'm with you. Like we have to see boom bust cycles. We have to see growth and contraction, just like natural ecosystems do. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has to be that way. And if it's not that way, then a like what forms in place of that is a big bubble or like a hot air balloon that's inevitably going to pop, which like we're kind of experiencing that. But I think that the air letting out of the balloon right now is a much softer experience than it would be if everything was just like a green light all the way forward, if that makes sense. So
Right. And there's so many factors. Like I'm thinking about meta censorship like we were talking about before, plenty of other big
yes,
tech
of
censorship,
course.
right?
Mhm,
SEO
mhm.
shifts,
Oh,
um,
yes, absolutely.
right?
Also, there were some pretty major initiatives on the state level that did not pass also this past year that really would have also kind of helped the landscape a little bit, um, in terms of creating jobs, in terms of creating opportunities for funding, in terms of having more like the perception of safer money flow into the space. And that, those things didn't happen. For instance, the Measure 4 in Massachusetts that didn't go through, and just, other things that didn't happen. However, there have been really good things too in terms of legalization, or various forms of legalization, and that's in New Mexico. So we can't, forget that there. And we also can't forget just the movement happening in Colorado. So there are really great things happening, and the movement is still moving forward. Everything is still going. It's just a little more difficult than maybe it could have been.
Right. Yeah. Amen. Amen.
Yes,
And
but also we can't forget the censorship thing. The censorship thing
right.
is horse shit. Sorry, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to cuss, but it is. But it is.
Calling it out. And it's important to say this stuff. And, folks, if you want to support independent media, please consider supporting Double Blind and Psychedelics Today from a media
Absolutely.
perspective. We want to put as
Absolutely.
much out as we can. The more
Yes.
supporters we have, the more we can help all of you understand what's happening and
Yes.
getting you to stay safer.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the whole difficulty with the censorship, is that Psychedelics Today and Double Blind, for instance, but also Lucid News, also other influencers, other creators in the space,
Mm-hmm.
they like, what all of us are doing is putting out information that is ultimately creating a safer user experience. And so with the censorship, we are not able to do so anymore, which creates actually a lot of danger. So there, yeah, it's difficult. The censorship is difficult. And if you are somebody who posts about psychedelics, I know that you know this, and I am preaching to the choir.
Yeah. So, can you talk a little bit about you all at Double Blind made a major shift in the last number of months towards kind of not necessarily putting everything out there, and kind of like actually I don't even know the language you use. What's the language you use for the kind of model shift you took on?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. It's been a wild shift. It's been a wild shift. What we are currently doing is we went to a newsletter first model, which instead of just posting onto a website for everyone to see, and then hopefully getting SEO hits, and also posting on there, then posting those stories onto Instagram and Facebook and Twitter, and hoping to get traffic through social media, we decided that that was no longer working for us, because it wasn't. Because the censorship is so bad on social media, like on Instagram, for instance, and Facebook and Twitter. Well, less on Twitter, but still, nonetheless, on social media, the censorship is so bad. And also, the censorship exists on Google. When you Google search how to take mushrooms, Double Blinds is not even on, our guide is not on the first page. It's like, way the heck down there, maybe page 2, 3, 4, 5, I don't know. But
Mm.
The issue with that, or the reason why, rather, that it's that way, is because Google is prioritizing like rehabilitation centers for this information, and also they are prioritizing medical information. So, like WebMD, for instance, and all of these organizations that Google is now prioritizing are organizations that see psychedelic use through the lens of addiction, or through drug abuse. So again, I don't know. Take it for how you want to. I'm not going to tell anybody like what is the right way to use their substances or whatever. However, it's really important to have the proper harm reduction resources and tools available, uh, just readily available, not 5 pages down on a Google search. So, anyways, all of that said, Double Blind our traffic was way down, and it was looking very bleak for a while. Just, we were getting kicked off of Instagram. We weren't getting any traffic from social media onto our website, onto our stories. It was a vicious kind of cycle downward, and it wasn't really working. And there was a moment there where Double Blind almost shut down as a result of these numbers, because a media company cannot sustain itself on really low page views. as a result. So, what we decided to do was go to a newsletter first model, which relies on our email list. And basically, we are sending out newsletters 3 days a week of new original content, mostly. Sometimes on Wednesdays, we repost an SEO story or something like that, just to engage our audience and to work with our audience that way. And to actually engage our audience, I cannot emphasize that enough, because on Instagram and on Facebook we were only reaching, like, I don't know, not that many people, like not that many people at all. And all of that really became obvious as soon as we started sending out to our email list. And as soon as we did that, it was wild how many views to the website, and also how many just open, like our open rate and our click through rate, were showing how our audience was reacting to our content. In other words, social media was not a good indicator of how our content was being received at all, because people kind of weren't even receiving it. So going to the
Mm-hmm.
newsletter first model proved to be very beneficial for us and our numbers, and also just reaching our freaking audience, which we were barely doing, I guess, on social media, which is wild, an account that has a lot of followers. I forget at this exact moment, but we have a ton. Double Blind has a ton of followers on Instagram. We get like 500 likes, or maybe like, I don't know, if you're not looking at likes and you're looking at views, like sometimes we get like 16K views, which seems good, but also compared to the amount of followers who follow us, it's like not really that great. And we're never reaching a new audience. We're always reaching the same audience too, which is interesting, because even with our email list, we are still reaching new people, which says just how much more fluid that space is. And
Mm-hmm.
it's because censorship does not, at least yet, exist in our inboxes. And so therefore email is kind of like the underground, if you will, for this kind of content and this type of material, journalism, etc. So it has been a massive shift. It has required a lot of changes over at Double Blind, and everything has been very intense and crazy, but it has been absolutely worth it. And it's really exciting that we're still here. I'm so grateful that Double Blind is still around, that we are still able to tell stories, and that we are still able to work with writers and nurture writers and nurture the storytelling in this space, because it needs to evolve just the same way that the industry and the culture and everything else is evolving.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. Like the when I watch our Instagram account, like I haven't seen the number change from 107K for 2 years at
Absolutely.
least.
Same.
And
Same.
yeah, and I think there's certain kinds of content that could do fine. I think psychedelic attorney Robert Rush put up a comment in response to Jack Orsline's account getting taken down. They had some good analysis of the situation. Y- Go ahead. You had something to
No,
say.
no, I'm just like, I can't, when journalists are getting kicked off of these platforms for their stories, for their reported stories, that is a massive red flag. And that's all I have to say. I mean, we could go into more details on that, but that is a huge red flag.
Hmm. Yeah, um, for sure. Yeah, and like I'm sure he'll get it back. I'm sure that's not for good,
I think
but
he did.
okay, great.
I think he did. Yeah, yeah, I think he did.
Um, yeah, so thank you,
Shout
my
out to
AI
Jack.
gods. Yeah, thanks, Jack. And I think there's no one with that kind of energy out there. And I'm excited to see what happens over time with him and
Yeah,
how he'll
absolutely.
unfold
Oh
as like
yeah. Oh yeah.
crushing the beat.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Especially the political beat. Like there's a few people who are really tackling that specific sector, which is like,
Hmm.
oh, so exciting for a journalist.
Yeah. Um, so model shifting, like we all have to like adapt in new ways. Kyle and I are still trying to figure out what we're gonna do. Like maybe it is newsletter first. Like I realized that I hadn't been writing for years, which is problematic. In that like I have a lot of things to say, and
Totally.
nobody got to hear it. So I started a Substack, which I've had
Nice.
complicated feelings about, honestly, because it's just another rich person's platform that I'm, helping them get Andreessen money or whatever. And, so I'm going to play lightly there, but I will post here and there. I'm just trying to figure it all out, like I've put up a couple articles like this GLP-1 and mushrooms
I saw
article.
that. I saw
Yeah.
that. Really, honestly, that's a really like it's so weird. But I
Hmm.
don't like it's such a weird little thing that's happening in the space. I wonder, yeah, I wonder how that is going to evolve. It's a lot of people I briefly kind of wrote about psychedelics and the GLP. Is that what it is? GLP-1?
GLP-1s, I say
Yeah.
Ozempic, just
Yeah,
to
Ozempic.
people
Yeah,
know what we're
exactly.
saying.
Yeah, exactly. I wrote about that briefly last year, and there were a bunch of people like obviously horrified, which it is kind of horrifying, but also there's a bunch of people who believe that it is extremely cutting edge, which it also is. So it's really
Right.
interesting, really fascinating.
Yeah. I remember Bernie Sanders saying like if this drug gets as much traction as it needs to, it will bankrupt Medicaid. I guess that's not really a problem anymore. Um, but
Oh,
but
God. Yeah.
sheesh. So like
uh,
naming it real quick, like it changes
yeah.
the way we digest things. Therefore, like mushrooms get digested differently. And some people don't respond in the expected ways. And then there was some follow up. Oh, we in the regulated model, we just do lemon tech. And then I was like, is that legal in the regulated model? And I don't know the answer still. Like there was a couple
Mm,
things, if users know to do it, I don't totally understand. The regulated model is so strange in Oregon and Colorado that like we really need a
yeah.
couple lawyers' opinions, I
Right.
think.
Yes, of
And
course.
the lawyers just gave it a thumbs up. They didn't even comment on the post, which is thanks guys. um, but
Yeah, you're like,
who
thank you.
knows?
Thanks.
And diversity of opinions. So yeah, there's that. And like GLP-1s are so interesting in that they're one friend reached out and said she's using it in a microdose format for chronic neuroinflammation, which I had never heard of
Whoa.
before.
Whoa.
And I think, articles like that, my intent was to just say, hey, researchers, yet another thing to look at. Like there's no end to what we
Oh,
need to be looking at.
absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Reporting on this space actually taught me that there's so much just in general that isn't being researched, whether that's in this space, but also beyond, and how, um, yeah, just how behind actually, maybe not, maybe behind isn't the right word, but it kind of feels from my novice place in the world and understanding research, it's hard for me to see it as anything but being behind in the research that we all really need that's really going to benefit humanity. But also, I get that it's because of funding and politics and whatever. We can go on for
Right.
days on
What's
all
the
of
real
that.
reason? What's the real reason? Drug
Well,
war.
yeah, well, yeah, definitely the drug war. Yeah,
Nixon
yes,
and
definitely the drug war.
yeah.
I mean, and just the fact that even all of the drug research that happens is again through the lens of addiction and drug abuse. So hard
Largely,
to,
right?
yeah.
Like NIDA is obviously really ridiculous, and the way they approach this stuff, and Carl Hart illustrates that well. And
Oh man. Yes, he does.
like I think Fadiman's lab in Palo Alto got shut down like 67, 66, or 67, and like that was one of the later ones,
Right.
and and like
And here we are.
the amount of suffering that could have been alleviated if we had not done this is incalculable. Um,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say exactly how specifically it would be different, but difficult to also not think that the fentanyl crisis and the opioid addiction rate and situation that is currently like plaguing the world, but particularly the United States, it's hard to think that it wouldn't be a different scenario altogether.
right, right, absolutely. Um, and it's um, it's interesting to speculate about, right? Like,
Yeah,
where would we
yes.
be and
I know, I
all
know.
that.
I know.
Um,
It is speculation, absolutely. But it's like hard. As I said, it's hard not to think that things would be different.
right, right. I like there's two kind of quotes like not this one's not really a quote. Like we
Mm.
haven't really had a blockbuster psychiatric med since Prozac. And I think that was in the 80s or early 90s, which is terrifying. And then I think this guy's name is James Hillman. He's kind of like a Jungian
Mm.
educator.
Mm.
And I think the title of one of his books is We're 100 years into psychotherapy and the world is still a mess. And I think like those two things are like, okay, so two different, very white people approaches didn't go very far.
Yes. Yes.
And
Mm-hmm.
thankfully, I think a lot of people are seeing that
Mm.
finally and kind of putting energy into different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, we need to be exploring the other options at this point because what is currently happening isn't working on many fronts, but including in terms of mental health, especially. So
Mm-hmm.
we got to get going. We got to
Right.
get moving. Jeez.
Have you all seen much of the information around chronic pain treatments? Like I'm a founding board member with the Psychedelics and Pain Association, which has been a
Oh,
really fun
nice.
project.
That's
Um,
interesting. I've seen some of the studies around that, and it's endlessly fascinating for obvious reasons. We have a writer who's been working for a long time on a story about the chronic pain that has since become an issue for her for the writer
mm,
since she had COVID,
mm-hmm,
since she's just like COVID was the onset basically of this chronic pain. And there she attended a psychedelics and pain chronic pain conference, and that has pretty much like changed her world. Well, in terms of just the information that's out there, not necessarily that she's painless, but it's just, offering a brand new road, a brand new path that is giving her relief on days when the pain is substantial.
yeah.
So that's
Um,
interesting, and a lot of people are experiencing that as well.
mm-hmm. So there's a really cool set of overlap between the COVID researchers, long COVID researchers, and the chronic pain people because there is this
Yes.
new science of pain that's unfolding.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
our group PPA put out like a really robust kind of training for clinicians and researchers and even patients to get more educated, and we're getting kind of boosted by cluster busters, and we're kind of leveraging a lot of what they've done.
Wait, what is a
Um,
cluster buster?
Oh gosh. So they're a 501c3 started by
Okay.
Bob Wold.
Okay.
Bob Wold is a cluster headache survivor.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Got it. Got it.
so they're
Yes.
the charity that has been really championing um, cluster headache research because they
Yes.
found
Yes.
a protocol with mushrooms
Yes. Yes.
to
Yes.
eliminate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. This really
I
great
love that.
this really great book was written by a Rutgers, I think medical sociologist or anthropologist, Psychedelic
Mm,
Outlaws.
love that.
Joanna Kempner,
Cool.
and it kind of talks about the whole Clusterbusters saga, and it was pretty cool.
Nice.
So they've been at it for about as long as Maps,
Oh,
maybe a
wow.
little earlier, maybe a little later.
I love
Um,
that. Cool. I
yeah,
mean, yeah, that's really great. That's really great.
so we're copying their playbook in a lot of ways, and we're about
Cool.
to be our own 501c3,
Nice.
and that should be really fun. And
Nice.
the next conference is coming up at the end of next month. If people want to check that out, Psychedelics and
Nice.
Pain.
Nice. Nice.
Um,
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. So that like how I leaned into that was not only did I get a lot of help from chronic pain with psychedelics and going to fish shows
Mm,
and whatever, I an overuse for sure helped me somehow.
God
I
bless.
yeah, but I like it because it breaks us out of the psychiatry only frame for psychedelics
Mm,
and starts to
mm-hmm,
make space for other categories is
mm-hmm,
one of the bigger reasons I like it. You know what I
mm-hmm,
mean?
mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. Which like we need to we no one else is going to do it for us. We like the people in the space who are finding new uses for these substances need to be creating those pathways and those new niches for people to then begin studying, etc., and exploring, and yeah, making a proper avenue for.
Right. Right. And I don't know that this is a Maha thing, so now I'm going there, I guess. But like, how do we kind of face squarely America and the world's drinking problems, not knowing what we know now about alcohol. You know what I mean? And then like, what are the alternatives? You know, some writers out there on Substack are very firm that everybody needs to not do any substance, and like all psychedelics are super bad and drugs are evil. You know, famous Substackers that I won't name. But you know, like, what is the alternative? Like, like we have to have something beyond alcohol, and I think you found some cannabis helpful for that.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's there's definitely an argument to be made for the power of these substances in helping. I don't want to say curb, but definitely reduce the symptoms of wanting to use or to drink or to consume a specific substance. Obviously there is an argument to be made. There is another camp of people who are kind of in the realm of using a drug to get off of a drug isn't how you do it. However, and I do, it depends on the individual. It depends on the individual and how that person is engaging with their own addiction, I think, for whether or
Mm-hmm.
not the substances work. Like whether psychedelics work to help somebody kind of get off of alcohol or get off of cocaine or stop using opioids or, etc.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think like when the situation is so dire, we need to be trying everything. And if that
Right.
means if you look at the studies for like smoking cessation or alcohol use, mushrooms do help. Psilocybin does help with that. But
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of things that also need to happen. There's a lot of things that also need to happen in order for those that relief to maintain and to stick and to really guide somebody off of those
Mm.
substances. It's not just the substance itself.
Right. So I'm explicitly talking like recreational alternatives, right? Like, how do I turn it
Yeah.
down for a minute? Like Amanita is becoming helpful,
Yeah.
mini
Yeah. Yeah.
doses are helpful, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think like even um normal, what we might call like normal American alcohol use, like that's
Yeah.
still
Yeah.
like quite carcinogenic. And like if we're kind
Absolutely.
of trying to spend less as a country on cancer treatments, which I hope is true, then how do we develop things that are, you know, not just abstinence only programs, which we know for sure aren't great.
Yeah, they don't work. Yeah, I don't. It's
Mm-hmm.
difficult. It's difficult to say. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Obviously, well, maybe it's not obvious at all for people who don't know me, but I exist in a world where recreational use is like it's like hard to define what recreational use is because if we are using mushrooms or LSD even or MDMA, there's a lot of therapy that can happen through the use of these substances, even if we're not doing it, with a blindfold on or whatever. And yeah, I think like there is a decent swap that can happen if you are somebody who doesn't want to be having like 3 beers a night, or if you are somebody who's like maybe not trying to have like a bottle of wine a night or something like that, because like Americans drink a lot, and a lot of the way that we drink is um like we don't see it as alcoholism, even though it could be. That's like a difficult.
Potentially subclinical, but right there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. It's
mm,
like, it's we don't see it as that because a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people drink like that, if that makes sense. If you know
mm,
if you get what I'm saying. So, I do think that there's a lot of benefit that, yeah, I don't know, having like having a mushroom experience can really help, or sometimes even like low doses of mushrooms can also really help with the desire to reach for a drink. Yeah.
totally.
And amanitas as well. I know that
Mm-hmm.
that's also helping people a lot too. And again, outside of the clinical framework.
Yeah. I'm a lot of people project on me that I'm just like constantly doing everything all the time, and I'm the most sober I've been since high school. You know, like it's bonkers that like
Yeah.
um and you know probably the healthiest I've been since high school too.
Yeah,
But it's fascinating that like you know psychedelics kind of helped get here, and even if it was
for
like
sure.
something that didn't look like therapy.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Yeah,
mm-hmm,
yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I think most of us here in this space are getting projected on as to like, being like what normies would consider druggies or something, or that we are just
Hmm.
like, high all the time. I know that that is definitely something that I face regularly, like out in the world. But I would also argue that like mushrooms have completely altered my approach to health, my approach to mental health, and not even having to consume that substance in order, or that fungi in order for me to like tap into taking care of my mental health or approaching
Mm.
better food options, etc. It's kind of like it's like how the mushrooms continue to help you even after you have taken them. Like the messages still keep coming through if you work with them in that capacity.
Right.
And yeah, and also same with LSD too. LSD has also my experiences with that have also guided me towards a healthier path as well. I understand that maybe for some people it's not that way, but for me that substance is a medicine as well, or it can be.
Yeah. Um, so what are some things popping up these days about like US drug policy that's like
Mm,
getting exciting for you? Like are you
mm.
feeling like a looming optimism about a major shift? Are you kind of like cautiously optimistic with some of the weird kind of mandatory minimum stuff that's coming up or
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know that there was a pretty huge shift over at the DEA. And I wish I remembered his name, the new guy who's now, I believe, the head of the DEA. I don't know enough information about it to really feel a way. However, I don't think that he's necessarily going to be serving us as a community here in the psychedelic space. I just don't think that that's something that we can ever depend on with the DEA. I also don't think that the DEA is necessarily going to be all that helpful to cannabis, like the cannabis space either. I know that Trump keeps kind of discussing or dangling a carrot around the rescheduling of cannabis for but he's doing it a lot more now. He's been talking about it more recently. He says like in the next like couple weeks that he's going to have some kind of decision around that allegedly, but we'll see. Also, I'm not sure that it's going to necessarily help anybody if we reschedule to what from schedule 1 to schedule 2, 3, schedule 3.
either way it's like not that useful, right?
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's just going to probably cause a lot more red tape and a lot of confusion for the state rec markets. So it's like something that it's like only ridden with unintentional consequences, unintended
Mhm.
consequences, because no one knows how it's really going to impact anything, if at all. But I don't know. It's hard to imagine that there won't be any like more complex regulatory issues for business owners and also probably consumers as well.
Mm.
Yeah.
This guy's name's Terry Cole.
Oh, the new DEA guy,
Yeah. I don't know much about him.
Terry.
Yeah, Terry, I would love to chat.
Yeah,
I'm
Terry, let's
sure your
talk.
people are watching. So
Yeah.
like just let them know we want to chat. Um
Yeah.
come to DC and chat it out. Um yeah. It's but yeah, Carl Hart's solution to me makes like almost most of the sense in the world to just end the scheduling system and then start
Absolutely.
building some sort of infrastructure to keep people safe. That's clearly not what we have today.
No, but building an infrastructure around the health and wellness and safety of people is the exact opposite system that we have currently right now. Because also the scheduling system has a lot to do with the incarceration in the United States and the the criminal system. So yeah, like we can't disentangle the two really.
I just started. I feel negligent on this. Synergetic Press put out a book like a year or two ago called Body Autonomy.
Mm,
Did that one come across your desk at all? Like
no, I
Izzy
wish.
contributed.
Oh,
There's a number
nice.
of people. So it's both like drug policy commentary and then like sex work
Mm,
commentary.
oh,
And it was
nice.
like high level, like
Love that.
really, really incredible,
Love that.
detailed, science based conversations, which is not what we have around this. Like, that doesn't make me feel good. So you should go to jail kind of stuff. Or like, I'm going to humiliate
For
you. Let
real
me give
though.
you a ticket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Oh God. When you think about it like that, it just really also shows just um the level at which religion has also kind of fundamentally infused itself into the scheduling system, but also our laws. You know, like what you just said, this like shame based, I'm going to embarrass you and make you into a criminal when, you know, actually you are a law, for the most part, a law abiding citizen, with the exception of this one thing that you're doing for your survival and or your like your feeling good, wanting to feel good, addressing pain. um there's a large like noise coming out of the front yard of my house right now. Hold on
it
just
doesn't
one
sound too
sec.
bad.
It doesn't sound too bad. Okay, okay,
No,
good.
not at all. Not at
Okay.
all. I had
Yeah.
people working on my roof all day, and somehow it worked out.
Oh good.
Um, yeah. Um, yeah, it's fascinating, and I've been coming around. Like I identify as politically confused, and I feel like it's the most honest way I can be. Um,
I
that
am also politically confused these days. Impossible to align with any party or group currently in existence at this exact juncture in
I
American
just
history.
I can't find any that I want to throw my dice in with, and like
Nah,
this
no
idea of
fucking
like
way.
being like what is the most humane way to do government is a way it's been put to me recently, and I'm like that's interesting. So it like comes down to like coercion, are we caring for people, things like that, and um I don't think we're doing it in a super humane way right now.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that even if there was, I mean, I think that even if we looked at the data would support that we are not doing it in a humane way. So,
Mm.
unfortunately,
And this whole tech thing, like the tech oligarch thing, you kind of dropped at the beginning, and I think it's worth bringing that back because we're we're on all these tech platforms. Like that's kind of like how we're transmitting it to people who are participating in these other platforms, and like it's not all Meta. I did turn on my personal Facebook, so everybody's watching it there, I hope. um see if that account gets shut down next. um but this idea that a certain number of private corporations kind of control a huge portion of rhetoric. And I think we probably got whiffs of this when Bezos bought Washington Post, and then
yes,
Musk with X, and like
yes,
is this kind of a bunch of people who don't necessarily care about this topic in the way we do, and they're like in larger topics too about humane government and like moving things in good directions. I don't know, thoughts on that riff there as it relates to anything, you wherever you want to go with it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think that they are looking at it the way that we are. I don't think that they can see it from their vantage point. Um, I think that like in a similar way that so many CEOs who run businesses have no fucking clue about what's actually happening in their businesses, and the actual workers and employees of their businesses can tell them in more detail, far more detail about what's actually happening on the floor of their own business. I think that it is something like that. However, that's not to say that these CEOs who employ people who build the algorithm are obviously guided to create the limitations on us as people who speak about drugs, etc., and are creating a algorithm that ultimately is looking at things in a very blanket way in terms of like we're probably seen on the same level as like drug dealers, if that makes sense, which is obviously a much there's it's a very different thing. So there's like these CEOs are giving directions to their employees to ultimately create systems that harm information flow and like the information health of platforms and of just people in general. So it's hard to say because there's nuance there, obviously, but I would bet you that someone like Elon Musk doesn't really have a full grasp as to the nuances and details of what's even happening within on the ground floor of his businesses, because that's like not how CEOs in America run and operate their stupid companies. So yeah. And I feel like that like that's across the board. Like that's across the board. That's probably how Zuck is operating with Meta and Facebook, etc. And yeah, just likewise, and across the whole spectrum.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think a thing then as the people, like we need to keep looking at how can we keep each other informed. And that's kind of circling back to drug journalism like we do, and like um other sorts of journalism that doesn't really get the press it deserves, right? And I've been
Yeah,
getting far more content that I find more valuable off of, tragically, back on Zuck's platform. Like IG is getting me so much interesting content from around the world that no major outlets covering.
that's
Are you
so
seeing something
interesting. Like
similar?
what? Like what would you say?
Oh, uh, certain violent situations overseas.
Oh, got it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and that America's paying for. So like, I just
Yes.
don't love that. I don't have a good, you know, journalistic source I can point to say, hey, like these
Right.
writers with names, with addresses, like in offices here, they
Yes.
did the work and they're held, they're
Yeah.
ethical journalists, so we can
Yes.
trust them, right? You know what I mean?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. 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 I mean, all of this makes everything so much harder for determining, like the censorship specifically makes it so much harder for the people to determine like what's real, what's not, because of exactly what you just said. Like,
Mm-hmm.
we are basically, what that means, like what is required of the people and people who are consuming information is becoming a smart consumer and being able to determine what's real, what's not, how can we trust this individual, how can we not, which is an analysis process that all of us need to be sharpening every single day, especially with the advent of AI. And how quickly this type of content is coming at all of us, like especially if you're on TikTok, which many of us are. Like information comes flying at you 3,000 miles an hour. And it's sometimes really difficult to determine what's real, what's not, because AI is not where it's going to be. And it still is in its nascent phase. However, it's still pretty fucking good. And it's still very confusing on there. So again, like the media literacy of the people needs to be sharpened every single day. We cannot be on there. We cannot be on the internet existing that everything that we are seeing is real, whether that's about, these the violence overseas uh, happening at the hands of the United States, whether that is even drug information, like,
Mm-hmm.
etc. All of it, or just like news about something happening at Yellowstone National Park, or something that is happening in the at like potential riots also happening at protests in downtown LA, etc. Like all of it, we need to be so careful. And I think what that also, like, one way that we can adjust and begin to develop our media literacy skills is talking to people maybe who were there, reaching out to people who are saying that they were there and asking them questions, and also sussing that out. Obviously we can't do that for all situations, but definitely some of them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a quick pivot.
Hmm.
Were you at PS25?
Yes, I
What'd you think?
was. What did I think? I was running around like crazy at this one. I felt
Mm-hmm.
like I didn't even have a second to breathe, and I feel like I didn't even have a second to really see anybody. I was like worrying. I was jumping from one stage to the next. However, I would say one of the things that I have said and how I felt about it was that I felt that this event was smaller than it was 2 years ago, and I preferred that. I preferred the reduction in size just because it was less overwhelming in an already very overwhelming event. But I thought that from the panels that I did see, that everyone did a really great job. I thought that Maps, it's impressive that Maps can put on an event like that. I also was very cognizant that the suits were there in full effect, and but that's not unusual. That's how it was last time as well. And I felt that there was a uh, like the level of excitement and the level of like opportunity and like the like prospect of prosperity coming down the pipeline like tomorrow, kind of vibe was different than last time, which
Mm-hmm.
that was very present at the one 2 years ago, which was the last PS psychedelic science. Yeah. Um, anyways, yeah, but it was, it was really nice to see everybody. I feel like in-person events is a great way for everybody in the psychedelic space to be interacting with each other instead of like keyboard warrioring against each other, over the computer and over the internet. I think that, being in person is better than being fighting each other over the internet. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. People seem to be a little bit more civil in person.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I think that that is something that we all need to be considering more often, and also inviting people from across the aisle to your events and creating peace, because in person it's a little different than it is when you have the opportunity to like keyboard attack someone over the
Mm-hmm.
internet. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so silly, so silly. We look like
Uh,
fools. Like, we look like absolute idiots doing that. And you know what? I cannot sit here and say that I haven't looked like an idiot. So, it's like I'm not talking from like a high horse over here, but it's like it's better when it's in person. I feel like there's like more civil engagements that we can all have.
it's practice. We're
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah, we
Everybody should be
are.
learning, including us. And
Yes, of course.
I I play a subtler game these days, and you know, I it's better when we all look a lot better, in my opinion, because we
Yes.
can inform policy decisions. We can be the ones helping inform really important things about how these things should get implemented. And
Absolutely.
right, like,
Absolutely. Yeah, it does nobody any service, especially these
hmm
medicines, especially these sacraments, especially these plants, these molecules, etc. If we are all sitting here fighting each other and like calling each other names and trying to dunk on one another, when like in reality we are also all kind of pushing for the same thing, more or less.
hmm so a thing that it's kind of a I had a great time at PS25. I have no real complaints. I just wish I had more time. And
Yeah, same.
um
Same.
yeah, our booth was so busy. It was so fun just to see
Good.
everybody. And it was like
Good.
I
I know. It
I'm trying
was
not to
really
say it
good.
out loud. I get to talk at the conference before Rick did. Um
Oh. Oh.
the morning show, they put us on at like 7:30 in the morning or something
Oh my
crazy.
god.
It was early. I don't know if it was
That's so
7:30.
early. That's so early.
Yeah, right. I was
That's
like
crazy.
I got zero nightlife in. That's okay. I was there for work, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was jealous I didn't party, but
Same.
whatever.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. I did not party this time really in the same way that I did at PS 20. Was it 2023?
23. Yeah, I think I
23.
only stayed up till 11 one night in 23.
Nice. Okay.
Um,
Okay.
so I behaved. I have a pattern of behaving because I'm like
That's good.
I'm so bent out of shape inside going into these things. I'm like,
I know. I
and then I'm
know.
like, oh, all my friends are going to be there. It's going to be great. And then it's
Yeah.
like, it's mostly friends and only a little bit of stress.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So
I had a great time. It was really good seeing everybody. Again, like you, I wish that I had more time with people. Like, there are people that I like didn't even see who are my friends,
so
which yeah, which
the
is
thing
sad.
that's like a subtext in like the notes coming away from 25 is that the um American right, if we want to call it that, is very interested in this stuff,
Oh
right? Like the
yeah.
Texas
Oh yeah.
establishment,
Oh yeah.
um
The Texas
Kentucky, Arizona,
contingent.
right? They're deep. They're real deep. And like
Mhm. Mhm.
I have um
Let's talk
I don't
about
know.
that more.
So
Yeah.
it's optimistic in some sense that psychedelic science is getting funded more by states because the feds aren't stepping up. I love
Right.
that.
Yeah.
Like, hey
Right.
feds, look what we can do, and you can't somehow. And then so we'll see if state rights stays around for a while longer, maybe, maybe not. And then the other part is like, is there a slippery slope given the rhetoric around addiction and the rise in interest in iboga for compulsory addiction treatment with psychedelics, or compulsory mental health treatments with psychedelics because of the recent it's illegal to be a person without housing, um and you're going to get put in
Mm.
treatment,
Mm,
like
mm,
that's now
mm,
a thing. So
mm.
like I don't know, I don't think forced treatment's good at all. And I don't think um like the data is something like
Right.
15% effective, maybe less.
Right. Right.
Just not a good use of money. I don't know. We're let's you can go there if you want and riff on that, or if you want to talk about like Texas, Arizona more generally.
Yeah, I mean, I will just say this. I also don't really believe that forced treatment is like good. You
The
know,
data
it's
says it's bad.
yeah. Yeah, I also I mean it's like I don't know. Yeah, that's it's complex. It's a complex issue. I also don't think it's good, but I also do think that we need a much better framework and foundation for like if people do want the help, helping them get it much more easily and in a way that's going to be beneficial for them. And I don't think that that system or that pathway currently exists, as we saw in with Measure 109 and the failure of Measure 109, or was it Measure 110? 110? Measure
I never
110
get them
in
straight,
Oregon?
but did you see the response yesterday or 2 days
No, I
ago
didn't. No,
from?
I didn't.
I'll send it to you later. So
Okay.
the university did the research. Portland State University did the research
Yes.
and said, "Hey, look, there was actually 20 other things that were higher priority, like that actually influenced this increase in overdoses, not our law."
Right.
It was
Yes,
really
exactly.
COVID.
For okay, like for yeah, right. Absolutely. Also, there was not a there was not a framework in place that allowed people to get off the street should they want to, or like you just can't really have a all drugs are legal or small amounts of drugs are legal without also offering or creating a structure for people to get help. That's you can't do one without the other, unfortunately. That's just like a that's faulty from the start. So that's all I'll really say about that. And I don't think that that had fully been implemented yet, even though it was something that was an ideal um, for the measure. And I believe it was Measure
Mm-hmm.
110, not Measure 109. To be clear, Measure 110. Yes,
Confirmed
but
110.
confirmed 110. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's that's kind of what I'll say. That's where I'll leave that portion.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, forced treatment. I don't know. We can't be forcing people to do stuff like that. I don't know. It's not gonna.
Doesn't
It's
seem very
yeah,
humane, you
yeah.
know?
No, it also probably isn't gonna work. So
Right. Like if we're being conservative with money, like I like to pretend, I like to put on Republican boots once in a while and say like, what does this feel like? And then say like, okay, if we're trying to spend money smartly, like where do we actually get where we want to be? And then sometimes I put on my cross and I'm like, okay, if I'm trying to be Christian, like where is the
mm,
most like, what is the most Christian behavior here in terms of
mm,
like, what would the, buddy Jesus want to do? And I'm just like, okay, cool. Like that doesn't seem right. Like those things don't
yeah,
seem to align. And when we can find
yeah.
like compassionate and efficient things, like isn't that the path? Um, even if it
Compassionate
looks
and
lefty.
efficient. Yeah. Even I don't know. I don't know if it looks lefty these days, but yeah, I know what you mean. I know what
Yeah.
you mean. I know what you
Yeah.
mean. Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's complicated. It's complicated, but going back, kind of pivoting and going back to what you were talking about in regards to the subtext, some of the subtext of like, where psychedelic medicine is currently getting its most funding. I do believe that that was an undercurrent at psychedelic science. It was the iboga conversation. And there's a lot happening with the iboga conversation and the ibogaine conversation. And I am really trying to be open to listening to everyone's messages that are currently involved in that rise of that medicine right now.
mhm.
Obviously, yeah, we'll see how it goes. There's obviously a lot of people who believe that this is not the right move, just because there's been no discussions with the Witi people of West Africa, and because of that, like we are not talking to the indigenous people about how we are using their medicine, or medicine that just like that comes from Africa. Also, with that, I know that there is a massive, just devastating opioid crisis here that we need to do something about, and drug crisis that we need to be helping with. And this medicine is something that can really, really, really help. Um, I find it absolutely fascinating that the right is the most interested party in moving all of this forward, like psychedelic medicine forward. And I currently have my popcorn and I am watching and I am eating it and I am going to witness whatever goes down. But I hope that things are moving in a way that is going to be beneficial for the people and also not completely leave behind the indigenous communities where this medicine comes from.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how it
Yeah.
goes. We'll see how it goes. We'll see how
It
it
would
goes.
be lovely if we can figure it out.
I know.
And I think Lucy Walker has a film coming out on Iboga. I got
Mm.
to see it at Aspen
Hmm.
Symposium last summer, and it was really good. So
Mm.
I'm sure it'll be cut different, but it's so good, and it tells some of
Cool.
that story
Okay.
in a
Okay.
helpful way. I, yeah, I always say I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna like if I have space, maybe I'll be able to email her and see if we can screen it in Colorado. But it's like a brilliant film, and
Yeah. Cool.
yeah, this whole reciprocity conversation is interesting and challenging. And,
So
being one
challenging.
of the few countries that did not sign on to the Nagoya Protocol, like we're not legally
Absolutely.
bound. Some countries are.
I know.
Um,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
so how do we do that? How do we do that skillfully? We still haven't done it with First Nations folks around their substances. I think mushrooms are a little flexible on account of them being global, from Africa to Ireland and beyond. But that's we still want to give a nod to the people in Mexico for sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, um, yeah. I
Yeah.
have some fun
It's
commentary there that I would love to flesh out someday, uh, but
yeah.
it's not for today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's obviously a lot with the conversation of reciprocity here, and I know I don't know. What I do know is that we need to be listening to the indigenous people, not just listening to them secondhand or listening to them once we have moved something forward, like actually consulting with them as the process goes. And that, the way that both parties move, indigenous folks and Western folks move, are at inherently different paces. And I just hope and I wish and I hope, I just hope that the Western party, the Western folks who are diving into these medicines, slow the fuck down and listen and just are able to at least make one right move, just one, just like it doesn't have to be this, it doesn't have to be that hard. Although the pace of capitalism usually propels the Western folks at a much quicker rate than um, than it's like at a dangerous rate, I believe, through the eyes of indigenous folks. So
So
we'll
remember
see how it
Michael
goes.
Douglas from Wall Street? Like it was like actually the devil, and like I think there's like this like capitalism will somebody will do it if I don't. And so like you're right
Yeah,
that the
right.
speed. So if I choose to try to slow down,
Yeah,
immediate loss for me as an
yeah, yeah.
individual.
That's
But
how it's
let's not
perceived.
go deep
Yes.
down there. Where do you
No,
go?
but
Where
that's
do
how
you
it's
sit with
perceived.
LSD and MDMA?
Where do I sit? Where do you
Like,
mean?
should we slow down with LSD and MDMA?
I don't think so.
Great.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, it's different with the molecules. It's different with the molecules, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
I think that we actually should be looking more towards, I think that we should be looking more at LSD in terms of the benefits that we could be reaping from that molecule, in a similar way that we have been looking at MDMA. We've been looking at MDMA for a very long time, and I think that we should give LSD uh, the proper scientific analysis. And I don't think that we are because of its, like the way that it's been projected through history. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's how I feel about that. And I think that there's a safe way to do these substances. And yeah, what about you,
Yeah.
Joe?
I'm going to vote for 2CB. I'm going to vote for
Okay.
5-MeO DMT because there's no indigenous
Ooh.
use. With the toad, there was Yopo and some other things, but like there wasn't like we're doing it today. And then
Okay.
there's so many other Shulgin molecules we could look at, and I don't know, 3-MMC, 4-MMC. We got some, Dr. Z
Dr. Z.
molecules. That guy's extraordinary.
Dr. Z.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, he was going to headline our conference in LA when we were still going to do that. Um,
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
way back.
I yeah. Oh wow. I remember. I remember when you guys were doing that.
It was going to be fun.
Yeah.
Anyway, anything you want to give a shout out to as we kind of wrap up here?
I would just like to shout out you, Joe. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for still standing and existing and leading psychedelics today into the future. I think that's really commendable and noble of you, given how difficult it is to be running a media company, particularly in psychedelics, but in general, in media at large. And I would like to also say, if you don't follow me on Instagram, you can find me at Mary Prankster. That's Mary, Maryy, Prankster. You can find me across social media there, and also sign up for Double Blind's newsletter. We send out stories. We have great journalists writing stories for us. We send out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Mary, Carreon, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope we get to do more of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joe.